We have one. Oh, okay. Okay, good morning, folks. It's 10 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and get this meeting started. So this is the meeting of the Transportation Safety Committee. This meeting is now called to order. For those around the table, please turn on your microphone when speaking. For participating via Zoom, please state your name when making a comment or asking a question. The MAG public comment process allows members of the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction. If you'd like to comment at today's meeting, please complete the request to speak form. MAG staff can assist with any questions that you may have. If you parked in the garage, a validation stamp is available on the counter to my right. If you purchased a transit ticket to come to the meeting, please see staff for a ticket. Hearing assisted devices are available from MAG staff. We will now begin the meeting with a roll call of all members. Okay, Chris?
Shane Kiesau, City of Apache Junction.
Present.
Sergeant Craig Martin, Arizona DPS. Jacob Pruitt, ADOT.
Present.
Raj Thowdam, City of Avondale. Craig Sharp, City of Buckeye. Dana Alvarez as proxy for Raymond Huang, City of Chandler.
Present.
Kason Chambers as proxy for Nick Russo, City of El Mirage. Glenn Robinson, FHWA.
Good morning, I'm here.
Chris Salas, Town of Florence. Clint Emery as proxy for Aaron Pinkerton, Town of Gilbert.
Aaron Pinkerton, I'm actually here today. I was able to make it. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Tony Abbo, City of Glendale.
Good morning, I'm present.
Eric Sussex, City of Goodyear.
I'm here.
Jesse Torres, Governor's Office of Highway Safety. Keith Dranaski, City of Litchfield Park.
Sorry, I'm present.
Thank you, Keith. Munir Zaman as proxy for Kerry Osborne, City of Maricopa.
I'm present and I will be the main member for City of Maricopa.
Okay, thank you, Munir.
Sure.
Mazen Muradovich, McDutt.
Good morning, present.
Stephen Bach, City of Mesa.
Present. Good morning.
Good morning, Stephen. FYI, your microphone was a little bit quiet there, but I can see you online and just barely heard you. Austin Kennedy, City of Peoria.
Present.
Carl Langford, City of Phoenix.
Good morning, everyone. Present.
Tara Harmon, Pinal County.
Present.
Jan Martin, Town of Queen Creek.
Present.
Sam Taylor, City of Scottsdale.
Present.
Michelle Beckley, City of Tempe.
Present.
Dr. Alyssa Ryan, University of Arizona. Adrian Rees, Valley Metro. Have I missed anybody online?
This is Ward Stanford sitting in for Raj with Avondale today.
Thank you, Ward.
And then Kason Chambers sitting in for Nick Russo from City of El Mirage.
Thank you, Kason. Mr. Chair, that completes the roll call.
Thank you, Chris. Our next item is the call to audience. This is the opportunity for public to comment on items that fall under MAG jurisdiction that are not on the agenda, informational items or items on the agenda for discussion and not for action. 15 minutes will be provided for the call to audience unless chair requests an exception to the limit. Mohammed, have we received anything?
Mr. Chair, we haven't received any request to speak for the call to the audience.
Okay. So, okay, thank you. MAG also provides the opportunity for members of the public to submit comment via MAG's website. Any comments received 2 hours prior to the meeting have been shared with the committee members in advance of the meeting for consideration will be included in the formal meeting minutes. Staff, have we received any online written comments for the call to audience?
Thank you, Chair. We have received one written comment for the call to the audience, which has been provided to the members in advance of the meeting for consideration.
Okay, no action is taken on this item as it's for information. So the next item, which is item number 3, MAG staff report. This item is on the agenda for information and will be presented by Mohammed Shahid, MAG's Transportation Engineer 3. Mohammed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, member of the Transportation Safety Committee. Welcome to the first meeting of 2025. So I'll be presenting mainly on the current project updates and also the upcoming schedule for the 2025 Transportation Safety Committee. Next slide, please. Here are the updates on the project. As you know, the predictive safety implementation project is now completed and we have the tool up and running. And we are basically providing access to any MAG member agencies asking us. We are providing that through our MAG IT. The FY 2023 RPC project, which is basically the RPC tool development, is also is in good progress, and there's going to be an agenda item today presented on this project today from our contractor Burgess and Nipel. The FY 2025 CEFROS to school studies are also going on in full swing with about 25% completed. We have multiple studies and majority of the studies having the assessment, the field assessment completed, and the next steps are being implemented right now and are expected to be completed within this FY 2025. For FY 2025 CME AZ, I would request my colleague Chris Gottsacker to provide a brief update on this item, please.
Thank you, Mohammed. For CME AZ, we are working to revise the draft strategic plan for some new planning mechanisms for the upcoming 2 fiscal years. And we will also be updating key statistics on the website once we receive the final 2023 crash data for pedestrians and bicyclists. And additionally, we're in the last fiscal year of our contract with the media consultant. And so the last deliverable from them will be, well, the last few months of paid media activity, and then also an annual survey, and then a final report from the consultant, which will be coming at the end of June. So thank you, Mohammed.
Thank you, Chris. For the FY 2025 local agency safety studies, we have 2 projects line up, one with Tana Gilbert and another one with Goodyear. We are in the scoping phase of those projects, and we plan to commence those projects pretty soon, maybe in the next February-March timeframe. For the FY 2024 non-motorized user network screening is also almost completed, as you can see, with 90%. And we also have an agenda item today for presenting the details on that project. Next slide, please. We do have the schedule for the 2025 Transportation Safety Committee meeting. As you can see, we're gonna be meeting the fourth Tuesday of every odd number month, with the exception of the November meeting to avoid the holiday week. Humble request to the members to add dates to the calendar as a placeholder, and formal invitations will be sent a week prior to each meeting with the agenda and materials for each of the meeting. With that, Mr. Chair, concludes the MAC staff report.
Thank you. Comments for this item?
Mr. Chair, we have received no online comments for this item.
This is Mazin Muradovic, Maricopa County DOT. I move to for the approval of November 19, 24 meeting minutes.
Okay, do I have a second?
Jacob Pruitt, I second that motion.
I forgot to turn my mic on, so we will have those participating in the meeting online take part of the voice vote by turning on their camera and unmuting their audio. We need to see faces of everyone participating in the voice vote. For those who cannot do it or do not want to turn on their camera, staff will conduct a roll call vote. Staff will only call on those virtual participants who did not turn on their camera. Members, please leave your camera on until after the roll call vote so that staff can count the people's names whose cameras are not on. Okay, can I have a voice vote for those in the room and those online? Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. Members, please leave your camera on. Staff, can you take a roll call of the members participating virtually who did not turn on their camera?
Muniz Zaman, City of Maricopa.
One ear.
You see now?
Yeah,
Yes,
we
can
hear
see
you
now. How do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Alyssa Ryan, University of Arizona.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes the voting on this item.
Okay. With that, the action is approved and we'll move on to the next item. The item number 5 is the Regional Priority Safety Implementation Toolkit. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion and will be presented by Kendra Schenk from Burgess and Nyepel, safety specialist.
Thank you, everyone. Just want to make sure my sound's working for you all.
Yes, we can hear you, Kendra.
Perfect. Thank you. So I just wanted to give a quick update. As Mohammed said earlier, this project is underway and we're coming up on our completion. So I just wanted to provide a quick update and actually do a quick demo of the tool itself so that you all can see what we've been working on. So just as a reminder, really where this came from was from the strategic transportation safety plan that MAG developed. It included this countermeasure or this implementation tactic of promoting the use of high value countermeasures. And so part of that was developing this regional priority safety implementation toolkit, which we've started on we started it back in early last year, so we've been working on it quite a while and made quite a bit of progress. So next slide, please. So the goals of this toolkit are to provide resources to assist our member agencies with making safety elements part of the transportation planning conversations. We also want to promote the safe system approach in all of our transportation related projects. We want to continue to foster and develop a regional culture of safety and helping to define the safety priorities for the region. Next slide. So there's kind of three steps, generalized steps of the tool. The first part is to have the user select inputs based on their intersection and infrastructure characteristics, as well as crash type. So right now I will state that the tool is only set up for intersections. A lot of that is based on the fact that the road safety assessments that have been conducted in the region have primarily been focused on intersections. The countermeasures included in this tool are derived from those recommendations from those road safety assessments. So really the focus of this tool right now is for intersections. There could be future iterations of the tool that will have corridors included, but for now it's just intersections. So based on those user selected inputs, there's a filtered list of countermeasures that are generated, and then the user can then take that list of countermeasures and refine it based on their specific site information and their assessment. Next slide. So it's a web-based tool. Like I said, I'll be doing a quick demonstration of it when we get through the slides. Right now, we're still on the final processing of the tool. It's not readily available, open sourced yet, but it will be living on MAG's website to be accessed by local agencies, your consultants, anyone doing a traffic project in the region. Next slide. So a few helpful features. I'm not going to get into this part of the demo today in the interest of time, but we do have two helpful features. One is the crash cost calculator. So when we're working with jurisdictions and leadership and the public especially, one of the things we can look at is the crash costs and the costs that we're having to our society based on the crashes occurring at a specific location. So the user can actually input the number of crashes per year based on the severity of that crash and generate a cost of those crashes occurring. So the hope behind this would be that the agency would be able to garner support from the public and from their leadership as to the damage occurring because of these crashes and the costs associated with those crashes that would offset then some of the improvements that could be made. The other helpful feature that we have is the volume estimator. So this is in situations where the volume may not be readily known on your intersection or at your corridor. So this could be used for anything, not just for the RP set, but putting in some information and getting an estimate of the volume on your roadway when it's not readily accessible. Next slide. So a few things still to come before I go too deep into the tool itself. We're working on some case studies to demonstrate how this is going to be used. Specifically with those case studies, we identified projects that were in the capital improvement program that maybe didn't have anything to do with safety. They weren't readily safety driven. So kind of using that to demonstrate how we could use the toolkit to maybe identify some solutions that could be considered that weren't originally in the scope and how the toolkit can be used to identify those. We're also working on safety as a priority flyer. So as I said, one of the objectives of this RP SIT was to help expand the safe system approach throughout the agency and throughout member agencies. So the safety as a priority flyer really talks about what our goals are for the region and how our focus of safety being a priority is really important and to continue to have that focus on our projects. We are also working on additional help information. So the website that I'm going to demo in a few minutes is not complete yet. So part of why it's still kind of in the behind the scenes phases, but more help information to help users navigate the tool and the inputs. And then lastly, an FAQ document. So as we're kind of working through this, we've done some beta testing with some member agencies, and then using some of the feedback that we've received from that to generate a frequently asked questions page. So we had some conversation about this, about creating a user guide or methods to have the user do step by step. The kind of feedback consensus we got on that was that can be kind of cumbersome to have to follow a step by step process, and the tool is hopefully created in such a way that it's pretty intuitive on how to do things. But having an FAQ document or some sort of resource of understanding that maybe this is a common question that we're receiving and providing some information to help users in that way, we thought was going to be more user friendly than a user manual. Additionally, providing a feedback mechanism so that as users are going through the RP sit, if they have questions or they have comments or ideas for improvement, to provide some feedback on to the MAG staff on how we can improve that in future iterations. Next slide. So as I said, here's our schedule. We wrapped up our beta testing in early January with some of our local agencies. And so we're incorporating some of those changes, and then we're developing that guidance materials yet here in the winter and spring of 2025. So hopefully this will be open and up and running, hopefully by the next Transportation Safety Committee meeting, but if not by that meeting, shortly thereafter. So with that, I believe I can, if I can share my screen, you may have to allow me to share my screen.
You should be good now.
Okay, let me see. All right, can you see my screen?
Yes, I think we can.
Okay, great. So this is the landing page for the Regional Priority Safety Implementation Toolkit. As I said, there's kind of some different stages. So I was going to walk through initially what we're having here on the first page. This will allow the user to put their project name in, the date, the two crossroads of your intersection, the purpose of your analysis. This is really for your documentation purposes and having that information on your reports that you are going to generate from this project. So as the user puts that information in, if they continue to scroll down, here are the different crash patterns that we may have. So the idea might be that the agency is looking at a location and they know the crash patterns. They know their top crash patterns. And so they can select as many crash patterns here as they know. In some situations, especially with like the bicycle and pedestrian crashes, there may not be a lot of reported crashes of bicycles and pedestrians. But if we know that there's high bicycle or pedestrian traffic at that location, we may want to check that box and provide some countermeasures related to those potential crashes. Additionally here, the signalized versus unsignalized intersection traffic control type. So I'm going to have to put in some information here to keep going here on the, just type some stuff to keep us moving, and I'll just put angle crashes, and I'm going to do pedestrian crashes at a signalized intersection. So the one thing that the user could do if they wanted to is right here, they could select that they don't know any other information about the intersection. They don't know any of its characteristics. They could do this, and this would show all of the countermeasures for that location based on what we've checked so far. You could also check nothing and get every single countermeasure that's in this toolkit. Not recommended. That can be very overwhelming. So use with caution, but certainly something that can be done if the user doesn't have that information. So if we go to the next, I have to put a purpose in here. So this page is the prompts page. So as you can see here, my quick haste of putting the project type, it shows this information here, so I can know what product I'm looking at. And then we have a series of prompts. And as I said, this question information is still in the process of getting updated, and that will be provided so that the user can click on the information or click on the question and get more information about what the prompt indicates. The other thing I will say that we have, I don't know if you'll be, I don't think if I open this, you'll be able to see it. Maybe I can try. So here is a field review checklist that we've provided that the user can print out and take to the field with them that really corresponds with the prompts that are here in the tool. So really providing users with access to being able to take this out into the field with them to verify these prompts. So right now, I'm just going to go through and I'm going to randomly check some prompts and go through here, try to make it as easy as possible. Speeding issues as an example, I may not know that. It might be anecdotal information that I know. It might be that I'm out in the field and I'm seeing people speed. I can check unsure if I don't know. I can look at the medians, the skewed. So just trying to put this here, light rail, heavy rail. So fill all of those out and then I go to the next. So this is where it gets really fun. So this is the summary of all of the countermeasures that we have. So based on the information that I have put in, this has filtered the list of countermeasures. I believe we have close to 200. I think it might be a little, I think it's a little less than 200 countermeasures total. So this has provided me with a list of the countermeasures based on number one, the crash types I put in, number two, my intersection type that I put in, and then number three, all of the prompts that I responded to. So as you can see, you've got I'm going to skip this, we'll evaluate for a second, but I've got my countermeasure, so the different types of countermeasure that we have, the applicability, so when might I need that countermeasure, what does that countermeasure do, and then other factors that I need to consider with the countermeasure. So, looking at, I don't know if this will show up in here, but installing pedestrian signal heads as an example. I may need right-of-way for that. I don't know based on the information I've put in, but it's something I need to consider if I need to have right-of-way. I also might need a new signal controller if this current signal controller can't handle the pedestrian phase. So just considerations that we have there. Additionally, you'll notice the different crash types, and some of our countermeasures improve multiple crash types. So you can see that I've got angle and pedestrian here. The green pedestrian, or the green in this case, if you hover over this is also going to get updated in a second or in a future update. But the green isn't always considered, the blue is a sometimes considered, so this is green. If you scroll down here, we should get into some blue. Just make this all for our sake. Should get into some blue. So there's some blues. So the idea behind this is that the green countermeasures are kind of those that are always good ideas. They're good practices regardless of the location that you're in. So having ADA curb ramps as an example is a good countermeasure to have for pedestrian crashes regardless of the situation, regardless of the location that you're in. The blue is more of a suggested countermeasure. So it's location dependent. It may or may not be applicable to your location. So just different information there. One thing I will note that I will talk about this in a few seconds, but I didn't put any information about having ADA curb ramps as an example. I'll talk about that in a second. The next part here is about the crash cost. We've given some ranges, $1 sign to $3 signs. Again, this is very site specific, depending on what you have. So it is pretty general, as best as we could kind of decipher to help agencies narrow down what might be cost effective. As far as effectiveness, this is based on as best as we could get into the crash modification factor clearinghouse, or looking at the latest research. So understanding what might be the most effective. And you can sort all of these things based on cost, based on effectiveness, based on crash type. You could filter it. So there's a whole bunch of things that you can do within this table. So back to the idea, go back to this original column here. So let's say that we have, let's just use this relocate pedestrian push button. This is applicable when I have a non-ADA compliant pedestrian push button. So let's say that I do have an ADA compliant pedestrian push button. I don't need to relocate it. So I can toggle this off as a will evaluate. So now it's off. It's considered something that I'm not going to evaluate further. So the user can come in here, look at this list of countermeasures, and filter out what is or is not applicable to their location. So there will be some things in here that are not applicable to your location, because one of the things that we worked with this tool was to not have 100 prompts and ask a million questions that people aren't going to always know the answers to, and that you're bogged down with narrowing down all of your countermeasures until you spit out 2 countermeasures. We wanted to provide this to be a very easy tool to use, high level, and then provide agencies kind of with the ability to filter through these countermeasures and really determine which ones work for their locations. So the point with all of that is you can filter this, you can get to the information that you need for your specific location. And then based on this, and I didn't pull up a report before this, you will get a report. So you can fill this out. Right now, the way this is generated is it'll be a PDF that will be emailed to you, that will have that list of countermeasures, and it will be in a tabular format, just like the summary page was. So if I go back here to the previous page, it'll be just like this. And what it will also have on it is it will have a text box area where you can indicate why or why not you're considering things. So the one benefit of this report as well is it will be separated by the top of the list will be those countermeasures that you are going to evaluate further, and the bottom of the list will be those that you are not going to evaluate further. So it does separate them between the two. So it provides you documentation purposes as to why or why not something was considered. And so you can provide that documentation. It could be as simple as, we already have ADA compliant pedestrian push buttons, and then it's you've written that off of as to why you're not going to evaluate that countermeasure further. So as of right now, the way this works, like I said, you can do this and then generate your PDF report, and you can share it from that perspective. The one thing that this tool does not do at this point is there's no extraction. So me having sat here and filled out this form, it is saved in my cookies, and I'm not going to explain cookies and cache because I don't understand all of those things, but it's stored in my cookies. And so the next time I log in, I will be able to do a drop down and locate that information again, to go ahead and just rerun my analysis. So it wouldn't work for somebody else on a different computer because it's not in their cookies or their cache. However, on every report that we print out, it does have a summary of all of the inputs that were put in. So you can see they selected this prompt as yes and this prompt as no. So you can use that as a way to also kind of check what was included in the prompt information. So as I said, a lot of the stuff in the top are still under development. We do have these tools of the crash cost calculator and the volume estimator to give those, here's that pop-up of that. So those are all in there as well. So that was a really quick high-level summary of the toolkit itself. At this point, I guess I would welcome to Mag to take the screen back, or I can answer any questions that anyone might have.
Does anybody have any questions, Mazen? I know you're always ready for one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Kendra, thank you for the presentation. This is Mazen Muradovich, Maricopa County DOT, and I really like the idea of the tool and the fact that it's available to us at a certain level to present some kind of estimation. Talking about estimation, with that estimation sheet that you showed, I think it's a good tool to have. What do you see? How do you see this moving forward as far as utilizing this, and how are you going to utilize it to kind of indicate the value of the implementation, if you will, to try to reduce, crashes. This is a good deal. I see it as to the on a supervisory management level to kind of like see exactly what this can do and what much money can we save. So if you could just elaborate a little bit on that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a clarifying point, are you referring to this crash calculator tool, or are you referring to the tool itself, the RPSIT itself?
Yeah, I'm referring to the sheet that referred the values or the cost of the crashes, if you will,
Yes.
the dollar amount and how you can actually utilize it to. Are you going to do maybe a benefit cost ratio at some point?
Yeah, so I think it could be used for the benefit cost ratio. One of the things we don't have in this tool built in is the crash reduction factor or crash modification factor. So what this is doing is it would just simply show you, so let's say that you had 2 serious injury crashes in a year and you had 9 minor injuries and you had 10 possible injuries and you had, 40 property damage only. You can see that this location itself is costing us $3.9 million per year. So this could be used in a variety of ways of just illustrating to your leadership that if we do nothing, it's costing us $3.9 million per year. Do we think that that countermeasures and every countermeasure we implement is going to wipe away $3.9 million? Probably not. We're probably not going to completely eliminate crashes at this intersection, but is there something that we can do to get those numbers down, to get the serious injury numbers down, to save us $1.1 million a year? Thinking about it from that perspective and the trade-offs of, okay, well, yes, this improvement is going to cost us $5 million, but it's costing us 3.9 million per year as it is. So $5 million for something that's going to have a life of 20 years. It's not exactly a benefit cost analysis, but it's clearly showing that something needs to be done. And the putting numbers to that, to the extremeness or to the problem, putting a definition on the problem of the in tune of 3.9 million can be very compelling. I can't speak for MAG as to if they will require a benefit cost analysis specifically with any of this, but I do know that the point and the goal of using this tool, while it is very safety driven, obviously, and yes, it can be used in RSAs, but the goal is not to only limit it to RSAs. The plan is that any local agency of any kind that has capital improvement projects to use this tool to see what else can happen at that location. So one of the things in promoting safety as a priority, when we're making improvements at locations, oftentimes we're touching that location once every 20 years. And so if we're doing a project there, and even if it's not safety driven, are there safety things that we can integrate into that project to improve safety? And so that is kind of the goal of this tool itself, is so that it's not, yes, it can be used for RSAs, and yes, we hope it will be used for RSAs as a starting point for countermeasure identification, but that's not where it stops. I think the goal is to continue to use this as capital programs. Managers are identifying their plans, and as we're funding projects, taking a look at this and seeing what else can be added to that project scope to improve safety.
Thank you. That just, if I may, just one follow-up question on these numbers, and I'm aware of the fatal crash value of 9.5 million, which is the latest that we have in the books. Is there it'd be really good to kind of make sure that there is an updating process to this, to where we change the numbers as need be in the future, because these are going to go up with the cost of. So just a thought on that in general. Thank you.
Absolutely. Great point.
Okay, thank you, Mazen. Anybody else have any questions of those here or those online? Sam?
Yeah, this is Sam Taylor with City of Scottsdale. I just, I may have missed it at the beginning. Is the tool available now, or are we still waiting?
It is not available now openly. I don't want to speak for MAG about if we can provide you the link or not. But it will be coming available. We're putting the final touches on it in the next couple of months. So I expect it to be available before the next Transportation Safety Committee meeting. But I will defer to MAG as to if we can provide a link out to the member agencies only to test it or use it.
Kendra, this is Tony Abbo. I think it will be a good idea to have that. And I think, Sam, I think you obviously have some interest in having that. So, my recommendation to MAG is to allow us to continue to have a link at least. So, we can continue at least, in the testing of it.
Yes.
Of the
yes.
itself.
Absolutely. And I will say one thing I did forget to mention. So, like I said, this tool is its first iteration. We know there's a lot of things that can be added and updated to this tool. One of the things that we're keeping track of, and I told this to the beta testing group, part of our final deliverable for this project is to include a report about information for future improvements. Right now, we wanted to make sure that we could get something out and get it working and get it in people's hands. We know this is not the final version of this tool. We know there's other iterations possible. So if there are suggestions for improvement, please certainly, if you're testing it or you get access to this, please let us know. We'll include that in that documentation. Also part of the feedback loop of the tool itself is when that gets added to be able to say these are future suggestions. Certainly not all of them can be updated just as quickly as, updating text or changing this, but we do want to document those for future iterations and updates to the tool.
Sam, did you have any other comments or questions? Anybody else have any comments, questions, concerns, input? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Kendra.
Thank you.
As this was a information and discussion item, there'll be no action taken. We'll move forward now to item number 6, non-motorized user network screening framework update. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion and will be presented by Mohammed Shahid, MAG Transportation Engineer 3. Mohammed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and member of the Transportation Safety Committee. As mentioned before, this is an update to the project that we have actually worked with Burgess and Apple also, which is basically coming up with a framework for non-motorized user network screening for the MAG region. As you can see on the slide, FY 2024 project, the objective of this project was basically to come up with a suitable framework for developing and implementing a network screening process tool as part of MAG's Transportation Safety Planning Initiative for improving non-motorized road user safety in the region. Next slide, please. So the vision for this project is basically to the final product developed from this project, which is basically a framework to use that to develop a non-motorized user network screening process tool, which will basically help us to fill the current gap that we have in our current network screening process tool, where we don't have an exclusive way to screen the network for the non-motorized users' safety. We have provided a screen grab of a similar tool, which was developed by San Diego Association of Government, as you can see here. That's the SANDAG Safety Action Plan taken from the Safety Action Plan, and this is just a snapshot of the of a similar tool that they developed. Next slide, please. So as part of this project, we have had several components, which basically is now resulting in the final framework. As you can see, initially we started with the identification of the data needs and the data sources that are going to be considered for these data that are needed. And then basically we looked at several network screening methods nationwide to find out what are the most suitable ones to be considered for the MAG region when it comes to non-motorized users' safety. And then an important consideration as part of the framework development was also to come up with a framework for considering equity elements. As you know, a high proportion of crashes or non-motorized user crashes, especially the severe one, fatalities and severe injuries, are happening in areas where we have lower investment in terms of not only transportation infrastructure, but also some other socioeconomic factors if we consider. And then we basically looked at some of the non-motorized users countermeasures based on several criteria from an extensive a list of sources, and combining all these components. What we are now doing is basically coming up with a framework, and then use that framework will be the next phase to develop a non-motorized network screening tool. The framework, the way we are coming up with a framework is we have basically compiled all of these components into a draft report, and the draft report will be provided to the MAG members after today's meeting for your review. So based on any review, based on the review, if you have any suggestions, comments, or suggestions for modifications, we'll incorporate that in the draft report and finalize the report. And that report will be used as the basis for the development of the actual network screening tool for non-motorized users for the MAG region. Next slide, please. So the initial step was basically to identify the data sources and the needs for data, the types of data that we considered as part of this framework development, where obviously the non-motorized users crash data, the active transportation built environment data. By that, we mean the infrastructure information that we have readily available involving non-motorized users, obviously the pedestrians and bicyclists exposure data, and also equity data. Next slide. For the network screening methods identification criteria, we used these several criteria. As you can see, we have extensively reviewed peer agency practices, what they're doing in terms of NMU network screening, but we also looked at the vulnerable roadway user safety action plans that were developed, by different agencies, the Department of Transportation's similar MPOs compared to that size of MAG. We looked at the data requirements and data needs as I spoke about it previously. We also looked at how feasible it would be to implement some of the methods for a region and size like that of a MAG region. And then we also looked at the analysis sophistication, how sophisticated and how complicated or how simple the analysis method is. Also, one important part of this type of tool is going to be the update requirements as we update the crash data or any other elements of data that I mentioned in the previous slides, like what are the requirements. We looked into that one. And obviously the equity considerations were also given importance in terms of, developing such a network screening tool. And obviously what are the potential performance measures that are going to be used to screen the network for non-motorized user safety. On a high level, these are basically the factors that we consider for identifying the network screening methods. But obviously, when someone goes through the report, they will find detailed information about each and every one of these criteria. Next slide, please. So based on the criteria, we basically came up with 4 categories of the network screening methods. As you can see, predictive safety analysis, systemic safety analysis, site level analysis, and combination of systemic and site level analysis. And if you look under each category, you will find that we have a recommended method for each of the category. For example, if you look at the systemic safety analysis, we have the descriptive safety analysis plus network screen method as the recommended method for the systemic safety analysis. For the predictive safety, we obviously have the safety performance functions or the predictive models as the recommended method. And for the combination of systemic and site level analysis, we have the descriptive safety analysis in conjunction with the HIN or high injury network as the recommended method for for this category. So these are at this point are the recommended ones, but obviously when we will be going forward with the phase 2, it's gonna be a decision based on the consensus, like which recommended methodology we may want to go after for the implementation of such a network screening process tool. Next slide, please. For the consideration of equity data elements, we considered obviously the data sources and what are the relevant attributes for the equity data. And we also looked at the level of effort in terms of collecting the data, combining the data, and basically using that data in conjunction with the other information in terms of the crash data, network screening results, or any other data that we may have. So we found out that these are the data sources that we can consider, including some of the national and local sources, including MAG data that we have here in our repository, and the relevant attributes that we found that are that can mostly be used in a meaningful way are the ones, as you can see on the screen. Examples include demographics information, transportation accessibility, health and environmental burden, and the level of effort were low, medium, and high. And if you go to the next slide, please, we can show you the level of effort in terms of what are the recommended equity data sources. So when we consider the low level of effort, or when we have to put, easy level of effort, it's basically the US DOT EDC Communities Explorer or Equitable Transportation Communities Explorer. When we consider the medium level effort, those are basically the second, third, and fourth data sources. As you can see, the FHWA screening tool for equity analysis, EPA Smart Location Database, and US DOT EDC Community Explorer, as I already mentioned, as part of the low. The additional one, which is basically the non-motorized exposure data, was part of the high level effort, because it becomes sometimes very cost intensive and also effort intensive to gather the type of exposure data that have been discussed as part of this non-motorized exposure data. As you know, private companies are out there to basically offer this type of data on a subscription-based model, but that's obviously, as I mentioned, the high-level effort would be required to basically collect and gather those type of data for our purposes. Next slide, please. So once we gathered the data, the next step was basically to identifying methods to basically incorporate these equity elements into our network screening process. And we have identified direct methods and indirect methods. As part of the direct methods, we have the aggregated safety indices. I'm going to talk a little bit about each of the method. And then we have the cross-tabulation and integration, which is the recommended one as part of our study. And then we have the indirect method. One is parallel descriptive equity analysis and pre-analysis equity screening. When we talk about the aggregated safety indices, it's basically taking a number of the elements of the equity data and basically, normalize those to come up with a come up with a composite or single score. We basically get this example of aggregated safety indices from the recently completed ADOT's effort of the Vulnerable Roadway User Safety Action Plan, where they basically considered 4 equity data sources and then basically, normalize those on a scale of like up to 5 to come up with a combined score. And then we have the cross-tabulation and integration data, where we basically consider a number of equity data elements, and we basically try to test those elements against the occurrence of the non-motorized user crashes by conducting statistical significance to see if there is a correlation between these equity elements and the NMU crash occurrence. And then we basically consider a refined list of equity elements to consider into the network screening process. So these are the direct methods. When we consider the indirect methods, those are like 2 methods. The parallel descriptive equity analysis is basically doing your equity analysis, considering the elements of the equity from different data sources, and at the same time do basically your network screening independently, and then basically use the two comparatively to see like which roadway segments or intersections or locations you want to consider by looking at these two sets of data produced by the network screening and basically the equity analysis. And pre-analysis equity screening is, again, you do high level of equity screening even before you start a systemic safety analysis, and through that fashion you can basically identify the disadvantaged community, and then you do your systemic analysis to basically see which areas are worth considering the systemic analysis and also the equity analysis. And again, when we will be embarking on the journey to basically develop the phase 2 of this project, which is basically the development of the network screening tool, we will consider all of these methods, obviously, along with the recommended methods that we have mentioned here. Next slide, please. The next step was basically the identification of the major countermeasures for improving non-motorized user safety. As you can see, we have considered these sources on a pretty extensive level to find out the non-motorized users countermeasures from a national and sometimes state-specific countermeasure tools. And all of these countermeasures are already included in the report in terms of not only their countermeasure sources, but also based on the criteria through which they were considered and included in the in this project. If you go to the next slide, please, we can show you the countermeasure review criteria. So these are the criteria that we basically considered in terms of including the countermeasures in this framework study. Some of the important or significant ones are, as you can see, the safe system roadway design hierarchy tier was considered because that considered the design hierarchy of removing severe conflicts and reducing speeds and managing the conflicts in time and space, and also basically increasing attentiveness and awareness of the roadway users. At the same time, safe system approach elements were considered in terms of safe road or users, safe road, safe speeds, those, and cost and implementation timeline are also included. Another significant inclusion was basically we also considered the RPCIT plan toolkit also to include the countermeasure into this framework. So the idea is when we develop the main network screening tool and when we consider the countermeasure, we can actually look at this countermeasure list based on the several criteria that we have established here, or even if we want to develop some more criteria, we can look at this countermeasure list and basically include those countermeasures in our tool in the coming months when we go for that project. Next slide, please. So the next step, as I mentioned before, we are almost at the completion of the project. We do have the draft report ready to be distributed to the safety committee members. So based on the review of the draft report, we will finalize the draft report based on any comments, modifications, or suggestions you may have, and basically use that report, which is basically the framework documents, to use that to implement a non-motorized user network screening process tool for the MAG region. With that, Mr. Chair, conclude the presentation. Be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mohammed. Do any members have questions or comments? Mazen? Oh, okay. Any other comments from any members online as well as those here? Okay, being that this is a information and discussion item, there'll be no action taken. We will move over to item number 7, request for future agenda items. Are there any requests from membership for any item on a future agenda? Okay, Hearing none, the next agenda item is comments from the committee. Are there any comments or announcements from membership?
Yes, Chairman Jacob Pruitt with ADOT. Just want to give a quick brief on the status of the Strategic Highway Safety Plan. We have entered into a phase where we're doing media consultant to put out to the public, especially the human behavior portion of it, since that's what's driving 71% of the serious injury and fatal collisions. So we're having a media consultant firm that we've already selected and to start the largest media campaign in ADOT history. That will be starting between now and June to identify the agency, which we've already identified, and then come up with the media campaign and then start the development of that starting July 1st. So this is going to be in conjunction with us, ADOT, DPS, as well as the Governor's Office of Highway Safety to ensure that we're not overlapping different media approaches and campaigns. But it will be the largest, most significant, expensive media campaign that ADOT's ever done. That's coming up between now and July 1st, and then they'll launch that with posters and social media stuff and advertising and billboards and jumbotrons and things of that nature. So,
Excellent, thank you. Anybody have, from those here in the room, anybody else have any comments or announcements?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Chair, this is Mazen Muradovich, Maricopa County DOT. Just wanted to kind of make it available to the Safety Committee about our friction testing project that we're continuing to do on the high friction surface treatment locations that were actually implemented in 2020. These are on Maricopa Road, milepost 16. And then the next one, the other one is in Bush Highway. We plan to do the testing with the help of the DPS crime unit section, providing the utilities, the equipments and the Vericon that's going to be testing the coefficient of friction. They'll be done on 2 different days. I have the being scheduled right now in February. If any of the committee interested to share and be available at the time of the testing 1 or 2 days, please let me know and I'll give you the information. It's a very interesting after study that we've been undertaking, and it's really going. It's continuing to show good results on the friction course. So. Stuff really works and still in place. So I'm inviting everybody to attend. If they're interested, let me know. I'll send out the information on that regarding that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mazen. Any more comments, Sam?
Yeah, thank you. I just heard on the news on the way over here that the federal government was freezing all grants and loans, I believe. So I don't know if there's any update or maybe for the next meeting, if that will affect any of our programs. Be interested. Thanks.
Do you want to add anything, Glenn?
yeah, this is Glenn with Federal Highways. Yeah, we got word this morning that all federal grants are being paused at this time. Don't have any more guidance, don't have any dates or anything, times, but that's just what we were told this morning. So as we get more guidance and understanding, we'll certainly share that.
Thank you, Glenn, and thank you, Sam. Okay, Chris, will you check in with the folks online, please?
Sergeant Craig Martin, Arizona DPS. Ward Stanford, City of Avondale.
Nothing.
Dana Alvarez, City of Chandler.
Nothing, thank you.
Kason Chambers, City of El Mirage.
Nothing, thank you.
Chris Salas, Town of Florence. Aaron Pinkerton, Town of Gilbert.
Nothing to add today. Thank you.
Eric Sessick, City of Goodyear.
Nothing today. Thank you.
Jesse Torres, Governor's Office of Highway Safety. Keith Janaski, City of Litchfield Park.
Nothing today. Thank you.
Munir Zaman, City of Maricopa.
Nothing today. Thank you.
Stephen Bach, City of Mesa.
Nothing today. Thank you very much.
Austin Kennedy, City of Peoria.
Nothing today. Thank you.
Carl Langford, City of Phoenix.
I don't have anything today. Thank you.
Tara Harmon, Pinal County.
No update for you today. Thank you.
Jan Martin, Town of Queen Creek. Michelle Backley, City of Tempe.
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Dr. Alyssa Ryan, University of Arizona.
Nothing to add.
Adrian Ruiz, Valley Metro. Mr. Chair, that concludes comments from the committee from members online.
Thank you, Chris. With that, I move to adjourn the meeting. The next meeting of the Transportation Safety Committee will be on Tuesday, March 25th, 2025 at 10 a.m. With no further business, today's meeting is adjourned at 11:06 a.m. Thank you, and you guys have a wonderful day.